Russiagate got started, and we know that it was all a lie started by the Hillary Clinton campaign. That the Hillary Clinton campaign realized she was in trouble because of her email scandal, which had broken in 2015 in the wake of Benghazi. We found these emails of hers that were weird, and people were like, what server was that on, and so on. And it created a problem for her all the way up to Election Day 2016.
But I could see them and hear them in my ear, and they said, Tulsi Gabbard, you're coming out and criticizing Hillary Clinton and her foreign policy record. Aren't you afraid of what she'll do to you? He asked me this on live television on MSNBC. And you're laughing. I laughed too. I was like, no, I am not afraid of what Hillary Clinton can do to me.
We now know the truth about how Russiagate began, and it's nothing like the media told you. What millions of Americans believed for years turned out to be a political weapon, crafted and unleashed by none other than Hillary Clinton's campaign. This wasn't just dirty politics. It was a calculated scheme designed to distract the world from her own scandals and keep her grip on power. It all started in 2015, when Hillary's infamous email controversy broke out in the aftermath of Benghazi.
Of course, is the original election denier. I'm sure you voted for her in 2016.
Well, she's not an election denier.
She absolutely was the OG election denier.
First of all, she came out before the sun had risen to concede the election to Trump.
And then spent the next 4 years saying he was illegitimate. He was an illegitimate president.
Okay, well, first of all, she didn't say he was an illegitimate.
Yes, she did.
You tell me exactly what she said.
She said those exact words repeatedly.
They are using the same old tactic that the deep state's propaganda arm in the media uses. Whenever they come across something that is true and that doesn't go along with whatever their narrative is that they're trying to shove down the throats of the American people, they first usually ignore it, as they did when I first released these documents.
Servers, deleted files, classified information handled carelessly. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a scandal that threatened to derail her White House dreams. From that moment on, every campaign move became about one thing: covering up the truth. By the time the 2016 election came around, the scandal was still alive, and Hillary was desperate for a way out. This is where the narrative shifted. As insiders later revealed, her campaign
stole his first term as president. These absolute liars who run around trying to act like they're the protectors of democracy completely ruined it, tried to undermine it at every turn and at the highest levels with lies, with out-and-out lies that were really serious, and changed foreign policy and changed the course of history in this country in Trump's presidency. And there must be accountability. There has to be actual criminal accountability for those who lied. And I can't wait to see this administration do it.
And quietly cooked up a new storyline: blame. Donald Trump tie him to Russia and create a distraction so powerful that her own failures would fade from view. They funded opposition research, fed stories into the media, and manufactured what we now know as the Steele dossier. Russiagate wasn't a genuine investigation. It was a political weapon. But here's where it gets even more dramatic.
That all of these pieces fit quite seamlessly together, creating a very clear timeline that shifted from before the election. The intelligence community almost uniformly saying essentially that Russia is trying to sow discord in the US election, but has no preference for one candidate over another. And then all of a sudden, Trump wins the election, surprising many people, both here and abroad, as we've learned in later documents that we've reviewed, that throughout that campaign, Russia believed that Hillary Clinton would win the election.
Tulsi Gabbard, then a rising Democratic voice, dared to call out Hillary's foreign policy record on live television. The reaction? A chilling warning. Aren't you afraid of what Hillary Clinton will do to you? It was a moment that exposed just how much fear and influence Clinton still commanded within Washington. Tulsi laughed it off, but the message was clear: cross Hillary and you'd pay the price. And Tulsi wasn't the only—
And our audience knows this, and you guys, but just for the record. Let's play SOT 10.
I do think that he knows that he's an illegitimate president. I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did. As I've been telling candidates who have come to see me, you can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
We're trying to tell the American people the truth and expose these people, many of whom you just showed, for who they are as the propaganda arm of the deep state, which would have no power and no influence if they weren't able to feed their lies into a willing spokesperson through the propaganda media.
One willing to step into the fire. Megyn Kelly, with her sharp wit and no-nonsense commentary, joined the takedown. Together, the two women became an unlikely tag team, roasting Hillary Clinton in a way no one else dared to. They mocked her carefully polished image, ripped apart her repeated attempts to rebrand herself, and exposed how her campaign slogans were nothing more than hollow promises. What emerged wasn't just criticism.
So what is so concerning about what Hillary Clinton is doing here is she is not only calling me a traitor, she is not only trying to smear my character, she's sending a warning out to every veteran, every single American, anyone who stands up against the warmongering foreign policies that really are her legacy, that have been so destructive and costly to my brothers and sisters in uniform.
It was a full dismantling of Hillary's carefully built empire. They revealed the contradictions between her public persona and her private decisions. They exposed the scandals, the gaffes, and the years of political maneuvering that eroded trust in her leadership. And here's the bombshell that left audiences stunned. Hillary Clinton, the same woman who accused Trump of undermining democracy, spent years claiming he was an illegitimate president. Before the sun even rose after the 2016 election, she conceded on stage. But behind the curtain, she pushed the narrative that Trump didn't really win. She planted the very seeds of election denial that her allies later weaponized against others. If Hillary could rewrite history, she would. But what Tulsi and Megyn uncovered is that her downfall wasn't just about one mistake. It was a pattern of choices, power plays, and deceptions. And that pattern, once exposed, left her legacy in shambles. But this story doesn't end here. Because what came next revealed just how deep the deception went, and how the media, the intelligence community, and even foreign powers.
And as she got closer to Election Day, she decided to concoct two lies about Donald Trump to distract from her email scandal. She got the Steele dossier through this Fusion GPS company that her campaign paid, and she got this group CrowdStrike, which was the one responsible for the hack into that's the one that said that the Russians hacked the DNC email.
Played a role in covering her tracks. And in part 2, we'll dive into how Hillary's team manipulated the media, silenced critics, and built one of the most ruthless PR machines in modern political history. If part 1 revealed how Hillary Clinton planted the seeds of Russiagate, part 2 shows us the ruthless machinery that kept those lies alive. This wasn't just a scandal. It was a carefully orchestrated campaign of media manipulation, intimidation, and propaganda, designed to protect Hillary at any cost. Whenever the truth about her email servers or questionable foreign policy decisions began surfacing, Hillary's allies in the mainstream press did exactly what they were trained to do: bury the story. Instead of digging deeper, they chose silence. Instead of holding her accountable, they acted as her shield. The playbook was simple: ignore, dismiss, and then attack anyone who dared to question her. Tulsi Gabbard experienced it firsthand.
When I resigned as vice chair of the DNC in 2016, specifically so that I could campaign against Hillary Clinton in that Democratic primary.
The moment she criticized Hillary's foreign policy decisions, the wars, the regime changes, the chaos left behind, suddenly she wasn't just a critic. She was painted as a traitor, a Russian asset, and a danger to the Democratic Party itself. This wasn't organic backlash. It was a warning shot from the Clinton machine to anyone else who might step out of line. Megyn Kelly, too, became a target. Her sharp commentary mocked Hillary's endless rebranding attempts. New slogans, new images, new promises. But the more Hillary tried to reinvent herself, the more obvious the fakery became. Kelly exposed how these tactics weren't about winning hearts. They were about controlling perception. It wasn't leadership, it was marketing. And that's the point. Hillary's campaign wasn't about connection with the people. It was about narrative control. She had the media as her megaphone, feeding stories that propped her up while discrediting opponents. The infamous Steele dossier wasn't just created, it was deliberately leaked, amplified, and repeated until Americans began to believe it was real. The propaganda arm of the deep state worked overtime to spin lies into truth. But here's the chilling part. This manipulation didn't stop at headlines. Documents later revealed that intelligence agencies themselves bent the rules, quietly, shaping assessments that downplayed threats to Hillary while magnifying suspicions about Trump. Imagine that for a moment. Agencies meant to protect democracy being used to protect one politician's career. Megyn Kelly called it what it was.
This woman should be in jail. Literally, Hillary Clinton should be behind bars. And so should the people who worked for her who did this. This is so blatantly corrupt. She wanted to distract from her email scandal. She cooked up a plan to accuse Trump of being a Russian agent in order to distract from her own legitimate scandal. She made up a scandal about Trump being a Russian.
Hypocrisy. Hillary spent years accusing others of undermining democracy, yet her own campaign engaged in the very behavior she condemned. Tulsi went further, highlighting how Hillary's decisions abroad, interventions in Libya, chaos in Syria, cozy ties with elites, contradicted the very values she claimed to fight for. The mask was slipping, and behind it was a politician obsessed with power, not principle. And then came the ultimate irony. Hillary Clinton, who prided herself on being the champion of women, weaponized her platform against female rivals. Instead of solidarity, she chose sabotage. Instead of building coalitions, she alienated potential allies. Megyn and Tulsi pointed out the glaring contradiction. Hillary wanted to be the symbol of progress, but her actions told a very different story. By now, it was clear. Hillary's empire wasn't built on trust. It was built on fear, control, and deception. And once the cracks began to show, the whole structure started collapsing. But if you think this was only about image and reputation, think again. Because in part 3, we uncover how Hillary's scandals didn't just damage her career. They changed U.S. foreign policy, reshaped alliances, and created ripple effects across the globe. And the shocking truth? Some of the consequences are still haunting America today. By the time Hillary Clinton's image began to unravel, one thing became undeniable. Her scandals didn't just weaken her campaign, they reshaped America's role on the world stage. What Tulsi Gabbard and Megyn Kelly exposed was more than political theater. It was somebody wants to be dragged down with the sinking ship. And yet, for every person who walks away, there's another ready to expose more secrets, to cash in on the chaos by revealing what really went on behind closed doors. That's why this isn't just the end of a story. It's the beginning of an even bigger storm. Because let's face it, scandals like this don't simply fade away. They evolve, they branch out. They leave behind trails of destruction that drag in more names, more connections, more skeletons hiding in closets. And whether you love it or hate it, you can't look away. That's why this saga has gone viral, not just because of what happened, but because of what it represents: power, betrayal, downfall, and the public's insatiable hunger to witness every last detail of it. And as the curtain falls on this chapter, one thing is painfully clear: nothing will ever be the same again. The reputations that burned in this fire won't be rebuilt overnight. The relationships that fractured won't heal easily. And the truth? It may never come out in full, but that's the very reason this scandal will live on. Because as long as there's mystery, as long as there's unanswered questions, people will keep talking, keep digging, keep speculating. So now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe the damage is permanent, or is there a chance for redemption? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this conversation is far from over. And trust me, you'll want to stay tuned because the next wave of revelations might just be bigger than anything we've seen so far.